Coming up next is the Civil Rights Special on 60 Minutes.
Hello, I'm Mr. Grow, and welcome to our special on the history of the desegregation of schools. This is a hard-fought process, and while we've made significant achievements in this field, the work is not done, as we'll discuss towards the end of this video. Right now, however, I'd like to welcome our guest, Mrs. Myers, coming to us live from Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
Of course, thank you for being here. For our viewers who might not know, Mrs. Myers is our in-house expert on civil rights history. Mrs. Myers, where do we even begin on this topic that has roots all the way back to slavery?
That is a great question. If I had time, we would start with slavery, but instead, I'll start in 1946.
What happened in 1946?
Well, in that year, many school districts in California were segregated. Mexican children in several districts had to attend separate schools.
A reminder to our audience, this is after World War II, when Mexican Americans fought alongside white soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines.
Exactly. In 1946, a man named Gonzalo Mendez led a class action lawsuit against multiple school districts on behalf of his daughter, Sylvia, who was turned away from her neighborhood school. The district court ruled in his favor. Despite the school districts continuing to appeal the decision, Governor Earl Warren signed a bill desegregating public schools in all of California.
That's great. Is this the same Earl Warren who became Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and oversaw one of the most significant periods in judicial history?
Why, yes, he is. Such important things as Miranda rights come because of those cases. But we're getting off topic.
Yes, sorry. Schools should have never been segregated in the first place, but it's nice to see our home state leading the charge in desegregation.
Right. And the judge in that case made some excellent points. He said a paramount requisite in the American system of public education is social equality. It must be open to all children, regardless of lineage.
He's absolutely right. So this should set a good precedent, right? Any following case that has to deal with desegregation should be pretty open and shut.
Well, yes and no. Let's explore that by talking about Brown versus Board of Education, which arrived at the Supreme Court in 1954.
Oh, I know this. So Linda Carroll Brown was barred from attending a school just 4 blocks from her because it was for white students. So she had to walk 21 blocks to the nearest all-black school.
Right. This was a clear example that being separate was not equal at all. The Supreme Court sided with Brown and ordered that all schools desegregate with all deliberate speed.
That sounds vague and hard to enforce.
Pretty much. Southern states refused to cooperate, citing that it was their states' rights to segregate if they wanted to, and the federal government, including the court, had no right to tell them any different. This isn't an exaggeration either. Senator James Eastland said, "Supreme Court or no Supreme Court, we are going to maintain segregated schools down in Dixie."
And I heard about George Wallace's standing in the schoolhouse door incident where he blocked 2 black college students from entering. But we'll get back to that later in our episode.
Yes, and George Wallace, in his inaugural speech as governor, famously said, "Segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever." But let's turn our attention to the place where I'm standing today. In 1957, the superintendent of schools in Little Rock, Arkansas, announced a plan to desegregate the public schools, starting with Central High School. So 9 black children were chosen to attend. Governor Orville Faubus was very opposed, and he sent the Arkansas National Guard to protect the students as they arrived at their first day of classes.
Oh, well, that's good, right? He seems to want to protect the newly arriving students.
Well, by protect, he really meant to prohibit them from entering. The day the 9 were supposed to attend, Elizabeth Eckford, one of the 9, did not get the message that they were all going to go together with the protection of some community religious leaders. She was harassed, and the National Guard even prohibited her from entering. Look at this famous photo of her being screamed at for simply walking towards school.
And what happened to her?
She eventually made her way to the bus stop and safely home.
So did it get better?
For 17 days, the National Guard prohibited the students from entering. Finally, President Eisenhower met with Governor Faubus about integration. That night, Faubus gave a speech against integration again. So Eisenhower felt he had no choice but to send in the 101st Airborne to accompany the 9 to school each day.
So did that solve the harassment problems?
Not at all. The 101st Airborne could only do so much, and by the end of October, they were gone, and a federalized National Guard remained. In December, there was an incident involving Minnie Jean Brown that shows how problems continued.
I read about that. She dumped a bowl of chili on another student.
Well, there is a lot more to that. She was trying to get to the table with the other black students, but she was being blocked by several boys who were taunting her. She lost her balance and the chili went flying.
So it wasn't her fault at all. What happened next?
School officials came and removed her. She got a 6-day suspension for the chili incident. and then after other altercations ended up being expelled.
If there were others who saw what happened, why didn't they help?
They'd been told not to because it would make them look like troublemakers.
That's not good. I know the story doesn't end there, but at least there was some good news.
Yes, of course, because on May 27th, Ernest Green became the first African American to graduate from Central High School.
Wow, so even though it seemed relatively straightforward legally, the public was being extremely uncooperative. Was the path at least cleared for the incoming class of 58 and 59?
No.
Oh.
At the end of the 1957-58 school year, the white citizens of Little Rock voted to not hold school for an entire year, rather than to integrate.
What? After all that struggle? I understand the parents didn't want to integrate, but what about their own children? Those poor students missed out on a whole year of education.
It's actually known as the lost year. Oh, and on top of that, 44 pro-integration teachers and administrators were fired. One parent organization was created with the acronym STOP, which stood for Stop This Outrageous Purge, and a counter one was called CROSS, or Committee to Retain Our Segregated Schools.
Seems like they're more focused on creating acronyms than actual education. It just keeps getting worse. Was everything at least sorted out by the 60s?
Finally, the integrationists won out after the Chamber of Commerce and several students said they would accept integration in order to reopen schools. Progress was being made, but it was not until 1972 that all grades K through 12 were fully integrated in Little Rock.
1972? So we went to the moon multiple times before Little Rock fully integrated? That's ridiculous.
It really is. Unfortunately, desegregation was slow and pretty much messy everywhere. Busing became a method of speeding up integration. However, it was unpopular with both Black and white parents, as they might be sending their kids across town instead of to the neighborhood school. This is when a family sued on behalf of their 6-year-old, setting another precedent that the courts had broad powers to remedy wrongdoings.
And what about colleges? Was the experience any better on that front? I would hope so, seeing as colleges are supposed to be centers of intellectuals who might be above the trivial nature of racism.
Well, in a perfect world, you'd be correct, but our reality isn't so nice. For example, Autherine Lucy was the first African-American student to be admitted to the University of Alabama in 1952. However, once they found out she was Black, she was not allowed to attend. So she enlisted the help of lawyers who were able to, a couple of years later, use the Brown decision to argue that she had every right to attend. Eventually, she was admitted and able to attend, but on the third day there, things were so bad she had to lock herself in a classroom due to an angry mob. Her lawyers argued the university was behind the attack, and the university used this as an excuse to expel her.
This is similar to James Meredith, who was the first African-American student admitted to the University of Mississippi. However, it was revoked when they learned that he was Black. Is there one with a happy ending?
Well, listen to this one. Vivian Malone and James Hood in 1963 attempted to enter the University of Alabama. Governor George Wallace blocked the entrance in what became known as the stand in the schoolhouse door. However, Vivian later became the first African-American to graduate from the university.
Okay, so it started as depressing, but it's awesome that Vivian went on to graduate from the university that tried so hard to stop her.
It is. Oh, and Autherine Lucy, she has a happy ending too. Her expulsion was revoked in 1988, and she was readmitted as a student in 1989, where she ultimately graduated from the University of Alabama. Today, there's even a $25,000 scholarship given out in her name.
That's good, but justice sure does seem slow.
Yes, but as former Senator Doug Jones, who I met, by the way, at a history seminar, said justice delayed is not justice denied. Sometimes it takes a long time. We will hear about his role in the civil rights movement later. But now, Mr. Groh, I'm going to change things up a little and ask you a question. Since you're the news anchor, can you tell us a little about current events related to desegregation?
Absolutely. This isn't exactly current, but it's definitely recent. In September of 2013, the University of Alabama formally announced that it would end segregated sororities following student protests. As of 2012, there were just 2 Black students in the 22 white sororities on campus.
And now?
I don't know the current numbers, but in 2016, there were over 2,400 minority students who went through the new member recruitment, so it is getting better. And even more surprisingly, in 2014, Wilcox High School in Georgia held its first ever racially integrated prom.
They were still holding segregated proms in 2014?
Well, the school officially had not held a prom for over 40 years, but parents had planned private all-white or all-Black proms. The students were the ones who pushed for this change. This is why we need to keep talking about these issues. It's not over. there's still work that needs to be done. We are making progress, but our country, our democracy, won't be at its best until everyone has equal rights and is protected equally under the law.
Agreed. And it really does seem like each new generation becomes more tolerant and are the ones to push for change.
Exactly. That is why we tell our students to vote.
Absolutely.
Well, on that note, it's time to end our show. Thanks for being here, Mrs. Myers.
Anytime.
And thanks to our audience for tuning in. Good night.
Good night.